Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to Houston and Reba's house. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that even if you are a single mom that works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops, with gentle hands and the heart of a fighter, we can't upgrade you to first class. This flight is overbooked.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Jeff Kurbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How you boys doing today?
Oh, here's your chance, Kurbis. Don't let me down.
Rich, how are you?
See, I was gonna say three men who make a TV pod, who love TV and never stop.
Well, boys, this week we are talking about Reba. But before we dive too deep into this early 2000s classic sitcom, yes, I'm going to call it a classic sitcom. Max, do you mind telling folks what this podcast is all about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn a little bit more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more, and if we think they can be made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. Hit like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. It helps us so much. We're just three single moms with the heart of a fighter here. We really need those subscriptions. And if it is
someone
your
keep a
first time,
counter on how many jokes we make for this.
if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And Rich, what is your question of the week?
First of all, I just realized from all three of us talking about it out loud for the first time that Reba is like one of the best things you can yell while shooting a three-pointer.
It sounds just enough like rebound that you're like warning your team if you missed. You're like, Reba!
Finally, someone crashing the boards in today's NBA. That's what we need.
Yeah, Reba's from that hard-nosed Jordan rules type NBA.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, so obviously, Reba McEntire, in addition to her comedy chops, is a country musician. I would love to know, what musician right now would you give a sitcom to?
Max, I'm curious of your answer.
Well, he's not exactly contemporary, but he is currently touring. So I'm going with, my show is called Lil Bruce. And it's kind of like it's like an Everybody Hates Chris kind of situation.
It's a young Sheldon.
With Chris Rock. So it's a, picture this. It's a young version of Bruce Springsteen growing up in Asbury Park, New Jersey. But it's just current Bruce Springsteen. It's all the chains and the vest and everything, just tinier. And continuity goes out the window there. We got his best friend, Lil Stevie, and they're getting into all sorts of hijinks in elementary school with older Bruce Springsteen providing our voiceover narration. Great. Pilot sold. Here we go. Let's go home.
Rich, I'm curious because when you think of these questions, I feel like you have a good answer in mind. What is your thought?
Well, okay, so I spend basically the last 2 weeks listening ad nauseum to the gay girly pop anthems that are going on right now. So I'm thinking we gotta give Chapel Roan a sitcom.
It was on my list, in all honesty. It was on my list.
Because I do really like, obviously Sabrina Carpenter was an actor before she started doing all this, and but I feel like all the pop girlies kind of have theater kid energy right now, and Chapel Roan definitely has theater kid energy. Feel like we need a gay Brooklyn sitcom starring her.
So it's interesting you bring up Sabrina Carpenter, because I was thinking through like artists that I am listening to or that are on the radio or like that are in the zeitgeist that are that would be great to see on a TV show. And you bring up Sabrina Carpenter, very famously on a TV show. Someone like Ariana Grande, very famously on a TV show. The thing, you know,
he's gonna say Keith Richards with this lead up.
No, in all honesty, the first artist before we thought of contemporary, right? The first person that I thought of was Prince, and I went back to the New Girl episode that Prince was on, which is just like that little snippet of Prince just fed me forever. Thinking, what if Prince had a sitcom where he was just Prince, and like, and it's just Prince walking into the room and everyone freaking out that it's Prince. Like that would feed me forever.
We give him the Kramer reaction from Seinfeld for every time he enters the scene.
But then I thought a little bit deeper as far as like what artists right now am I interested in their perspective or like interested in the life lessons that they might have to give. And there's two that came to mind, and they're completely different opposite ends of the spectrum. One is Jelly Roll. I want Jelly Roll to have a sitcom because I think it would be.
Once again, this started with Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah. And then the other one is Olivia Rodrigo. I think that Olivia Rodrigo has enough popularity, enough of a fandom. I know she was on a TV show.
Also was on a TV show.
But it was not a sitcom. It was High School Musical, the TV show, which is not real High School Musical. But like, yeah, I want Olivia Rodrigo back on TV because I think that there's an opportunity to have a little bit more fun, maybe not on Disney Plus or maybe just on Hulu.
I believe friend of the pod Karama Donkwa said what was it? High School Musical, the movie, the TV show, or something like that.
Olivia Rodrigo does give really big multicam sitcom energy, though. So I see what you're getting at.
She feels like it would just be Wednesday, you know? It would just be Wednesday again. The Wednesday Addams show. I feel like it would just be that over again.
Just a little bit like happier version of Wednesday. Well, Rich, thank you for your question of the week. Let's talk a little bit more about Reba. And we're going to start off with a brief synopsis. And I'm just going to say it before I even say it. They missed out with this one. A plucky mom with a heart of gold grapples with the hilarious highs and lows of single parenthood in the wake of a very messy divorce.
It was there.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You had the theme song. Just use the theme song and we got it.
Copy, paste. It's not hard.
Well, Max, I'm curious. Although they might have fucked up the synopsis, how did this show get made?
Today, we are talking about the pilot episode of Reba, which aired on October 5th, 2001 on the WB. And we are talking about the show's creator of Allison M. Gibson today. Gibson began her career in the industry after receiving her MFA in screenwriting from the University of Texas at Austin, Hook 'em Horns. She served as a story editor and staff writer on Home Improvement, as well as a writer-producer on Boy Meets World. Gibson writes the pilot Deep in the Heart, which gets picked up by the WB at the start of 2001, about a working-class single mom in the Houston suburbs. Fresh off a successful revival of Annie Get Your Gun on Broadway, country star Reba McEntire auditions twice for this pilot and lands the role of Sally Hart.
I love that they had to give Reba McEntire a callback.
So there is some history to this show. This was not developed for Reba. Reba went out, auditioned for this part, earned it. So Reba plays Sally Hart in Deep in the Heart. After filming the pilot in front of a live studio audience, Gibson and the producers retooled the entire show, changing the lead from Sally Hart to Reba Hart and renaming the show Reba in an attempt to help her massive fan base connect with the sitcom. Reba's music was incorporated into the series as well. Along with the show's notable theme song, I'm a Survivor, this pilot today features her 1989 hit Walk On. The pilot was directed by James Widows, an acclaimed TV director by all means, but probably still to this day best known for playing Delta House fraternity president Robert Hoover in the 1978 film Animal House.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, most new sitcoms, even family-oriented ones that aren't on traditional network TV, do not tend to premiere on Friday nights in October. That's kind of a weird time to launch a show. However, this show originally had a debut date of September 14th, 2001, What was delayed for several weeks due to the attacks of September 11th.
God damn it, Osama bin Laden. I swear to God, you kept us from 3 more weeks of Reba.
God.
We'll never get it back.
No, never.
All right, well.
Oh, that was it. That was the end.
Oh, what? Did I take the wind out of your sails, Jeff?
That was the end of it.
I love how Rich was just like, you know what? this is where the joke goes, right at the end.
It is crazy.
I just love the brevity of that sentence.
You think about the projects that were famously delayed, and it was like action movies and shoot 'em ups and dystopian feature films, and Reba, the most like, truly like grilled cheese and milk type of sitcom of all time, also was too heavy for audiences for a couple of weeks.
And there were also 2 cult classic movies that came out that same week that just decided to keep on going, and that was Zoolander debuted that week, and then and then the movie very famously starring Mariah Carey, Glitter, to which this day she blames September 11th for that movie not being a bigger hit.
This is now, our 3rd show that we've done where the pilot got delayed because of 9/11. First one was 24. The other one was The Sopranos. Well, I'm sorry. No, we haven't done The Sopranos yet.
No, we're waiting. That's Max's Super Bowl right there. We're waiting for that day.
Yeah. He's psyching himself up in the mirror every day for The Sopranos episode.
He's just like, this week I'm gonna suggest it, and he never does.
I watch the pilot every week just in case it's the week.
Oh my gosh! Well, do y'all want to jump into the delayed pilot of Reba, and let's talk a little bit more about it? And we start off.
The pilot that no longer takes place in Lower Manhattan. Now it's in Houston, Texas.
We start off with let's just say it, court mandated family therapy. And
strong start.
I just want to, if you have not watched this pilot, you can watch it on Netflix. It is very readily available, and they want you to know it is available.
And Hulu.
But the other thing that I laugh about this opening scene is if you were to tell me that word for word, this opening scene was how this show was pitched to network executives, then I would 100% believe you, because this is the largest piece of exposition with a few quirky jokes thrown in that I have ever seen. But I'm curious from you two, what were you thinking?
I started watching this pilot, thought to myself, wait, am I supposed to know who these people are already? Clicked back out of the episode to make sure that I was watching the pilot, and then started it back over again, because you get absolutely springboard launched into the middle of these domestic disputes, and this is very much we enter and these characters' relationships are established already. And I like that it's not just, and here's an intro to each person, but it is like, hey, we're entering the middle of a problem. Also, like, really cool that I guess for audiences in 2001 that maybe doesn't play quite as much now is that the therapist, Dr. Peters, is played by Nell Carter, who was actually this like huge 80s sitcom star. She started a show called Give Me a Break that ran for like nearly 150 episodes. So I'm sure if you're watching this back in 2001 and you're the older demographic for Reba, you're like, what? There's Reba McEntire and there's Nell Carter? This is going to be the greatest show of my life. I'm so glad I waited 4 more weeks to watch this.
I was going to say Nell Carter absolutely destroys this scene. It is the only scene in this pilot that we see her in, but she destroys. Her comedic timing is fantastic. The sarcasm is wonderful, and she plays off of every single actor and actress in that scene impeccably. And sometimes we talk about these acting performances. This is one that really struck me as like, if you don't have Nell Carter, I don't think the scene works as well as it does in getting us to believe that this is a dysfunctional family that is here not on purpose, but by force of a court.
Yeah, 100%. It also it just very much feels, I don't know, I just get this like warm, glowy feeling from the sitcom-y nature of it all. Like it's probably the same thing I felt with Everybody Loves Raymond and any other sitcom we do, but like the jokes are tight. Every single like conflict line is gonna have a moment of relief, and yeah, Nell Carter just is expert level comedy actress bringing this scene together.
But this is also a really great scene of telling us the dysfunction of this family without us actually having to see it, right? We learn every single thing about this is a family that got in a fight in a courtroom. Like, they obviously don't get along together. No one agrees on whose home they want to be staying in between these two divorced parents.
Mhm.
Like, we even get the line of Nell Carter speaking to the actor that plays Jake saying, didn't you bite someone? And the kid says, I didn't think anybody was looking, which, like, just very classic, like
staring down the barrel of this small child and saying they were. But goddamn good.
Like, we meet this family of, Reba, her soon-to-be ex-husband, it sounds like, and their 3 children, and we learn every reason why we are there. We get the answer of why is this day different right from the start, almost immediately. And I guess, Max, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about this? Like, why are we here, and why is this day different than any other day?
I'm thinking that Jake has the worst bowl cut of all time, and I truly feel bad for that kid.
Oh, dude, that's a sitcom youngest son bowl cut if I've ever seen one.
Oh, man,
That's out of the Jonathan Taylor Thomas playbook.
Wardrobe was working overtime. My thought is everyone is pregnant in this show.
Dude, I have the note in all caps, everybody pregnant.
We've got Brock, the husband, knocking up his mistress, Barbara Jean, who is his dental assistant. We get the reveal of Cheyenne, the eldest daughter, being pregnant. My biggest takeaway, though, and look, I'm no expert on high school football. I don't claim to be. But they talk about Van, the boyfriend and baby daddy of Cheyenne, being the key to taking his high school football team all the way to state because he's the star quarterback. No defensive back is single-handedly taking you to state.
I mean,
if he's that good, you just don't throw at him. That's to say nothing of the high school's run defense. That's to say nothing of their offensive pass block. It's to say nothing of their run game, their passing game, their special teams. Van Montgomery is not getting you one of these. Van Montgomery
Deion
is not
Sanders
getting
is
you
at
one
the
of
door
these.
right now.
Deion Sanders and Darrelle Revis are both at your door saying you are wrong.
And their knees are terrible.
Their knees are so bad right now. I do have a question for both of you. What do we think Van is short for? Because when I heard that the name Van was Van Montgomery's name, I thought this has to be for something else. No, it doesn't. So I'd like your best guess. What is Van short for?
Vance?
Okay.
I don't
know. Evander?
Vanathan
that's a good
is
one.
Vanathan or Evan, I think, might be.
Oh, Evan, that's a good one.
Evan is, I think, like maybe the best choice, and it's a bad one at that. So
he's Dutch and they can't pronounce it properly, so they just call it Van.
It has a silent E the entire time.
Also, very proud of them for getting a Dutch player that's not a kicker.
Yeah, so after this opening scene, we get this show, for some reason, just has a very iconic theme song. The Survivor, the
it's
use
been
of
meme-ified
Survivor
to death at this point.
Yeah, but we get the weeniest version of this song, like after this therapy scene, and I'm gonna say I was a little bit deflated. I was ready to rock out to this song.
They did the opposite thing that they normally do for a pilot, where you normally get the full version of the song in the pilot, where they take like 2 full minutes, like the Fresh Prince pilot and stuff like that. And then we got the opposite.
And apparently this theme song goes through multiple iterations in the show's run. So I was ready to throw hands at Netflix. I thought this was Netflix hating music again. It's not. I retract any anger, any letters that I wrote preemptively before recording this podcast.
Ted Sarandos, if you're listening, please throw out your mail.
Yeah, just throw out the mail. They're really angry. I'm so sorry I was heated. But yeah, you get the snippet in the pilot, you get a longer version, and then like the real iconic, intro credits with all of the people and the posing and all that jazz. That comes in season 2. So this song had evolutions. It is a banger. It is hilarious taking something off of Reba's greatest hits collection and just making it the theme song, though. It's just like, all right, we're double dipping. She's a star. She's a producer. We're getting her the licensing credits for the theme song.
Yeah, she's getting those residuals.
I love that this is the country music version of Seinfeld opening with his own material.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he played the bass.
It's a keyboard, Max. Listen.
Oh, my gosh. Well, So after this therapy scene, after our theme song, we get to go into the Reba's home, right? Where not only are we making breakfast, but we seem to be solving everyone's problems all at once,
Yeah.
Reba only. And one thing that I was surprised that the show talked about, even though there is a teen pregnancy that like we have been referenced to, is there's a lot of joking about sex ed throughout the beginning of this show. Everything from like, oh, we thought there's only one day a month that you can get pregnant. A mention of a hotel hot tub, to which we get a very interesting, like our Brock, is Brock the name of the dad?
Brock.
Brock and Reba, share a look, being like, yeah.
Rock.
Remember when Cheyenne was we conceived Cheyenne, sort of thing. Like it's very interesting for this to be a family friendly attempt at a show, and that also be one of our main issues.
That's I feel like we've done another pilot episode of a sitcom that felt family friendly, and then they also like went really hard with the sexual innuendo. I can't remember precisely what it was, but that definitely is a thing of like, yeah, we're gonna do tongue-in-cheek sex jokes and stuff like that for
the show
for
also
the adults.
aired on Friday nights, though. It is something that was aimed at maybe a slightly older audience. Think about the Reba demographic at this point. She's years into her career. But yeah, it is cheeky. It is winking at you. A lot of the jokes in these opening scenes are humor about sex. It's humor about Walmarts. It is so middle America in how it targets its demographic.
I feel like around this time I was watching a lot of the Bill Engvall show just because I really loved I've for some reason I just ended up in the target demographic for like every single like stand-up comedy group, original Kings of Comedy, Blue Collar Tour, that kind of stuff. And this feels so much like the Bernie Mac show, the
very formulaic,
the Bill Engvall show, the very first appearance of one Jennifer Lawrence. And I feel like this is following like a little bit of a formula, but I have no idea what Reba's overall reputation was before all this. Do either of you guys know? Like, was she someone who is going to sing about like or do comedy about like raunchier subjects?
I mean, beloved country musician, right? Like, and when she did do Broadway, it was a very big deal that she went on to go and do Broadway, because it was not like it was the end of her career or she was looking for a bone by any means.
She's also just been around for so long. She was super well established. So the song that they use in this episode, Walk On, I looked it up. So it's from her 15th album that came out in 1989. These are artists who work so prolifically. She's 15 albums in and they're still going platinum. She's still selling 1 million plus copies of records.
Is she in some like super bad Motown contract or something like that? 15 albums?
It's just the way these like industries work. It's just the way country works. You tour nonstop. She's been doing TV and film for over a decade at this point, since she broke out with Tremors at the end of the 80s. So she's not a stranger to...
She's in Tremors?
Yeah, she plays the wife in Tremors. She's been around in so many entertainment facets for so long, and she's a charismatic performer. I think she's someone who's always been known for her touring and her stage presence and her relatability.
So a couple of things that I did want to also speak to. This show, and Rich, you sort of brought it up, like with the formulaicness of it, they use Reba very much for... you are our moral center while also being our zingers, right? Like there are so many Reba zingers that she is throwing out, and it almost is distracting to a point where it's just jokes per minute. But I'm like, do you have any material that is not a zinger that you would like to say?
It's zingers and reaction shots. That's the formula. It is device gets set up, Reba one-liner, Reba reaction face to her own one-liner, audience laugh, and then we move on to the next thing. The pacing of this is oddly slow. There is a lot of air in the room of these shots. It's very much 3 cameras in a multicam setting. There's not much movement to it. It does not move with quite the quip that we associate even with slightly later multicam or some of the bigger network multicams we've covered on this. It does not have the pacing of a Raymond or the pacing of a Frasier or anything like that.
Yeah. Also, I do want to say, like, when we talk about formulas or having something be like, a little bit cookie cutter or something like that, that's not like the fault of the writers, it's not the fault of the director or anything like that. It's capitalism. Everything is written around specific commercial breaks, and like the formula for the sitcom was established with like the Honeymooners or something like that. Like it's been around for a really long time. So, that said, like, it is, writing for a sitcom is like, I don't know, it's like trying to put together a puzzle in a short amount of time. It is like, how many jokes can we cram in this 7-minute segment and keep the plot moving? Because like ultimately a lot of shit does happen for it being a decent amount of dead air and a lot of like, kind of throwaway zinger lines. It is like, things get moved aggressively fast.
And let's keep in mind too that this is a reshot pilot. They filmed the entire thing with Sally Hart. There are apparently outtakes and DVD extras with, her being called Sally. So this is a second go, a second filming, retooled, and I think it's with the understanding of our star is Reba McEntire. The reason people are going to tune into this pilot is because it's Reba McEntire doing family multicam sitcom work. And so all you have to do is for 22 minutes, highlight that Reba can do multicam. And then you can figure out everything else as you go on. You have time with your retooled script and your retooled writer's room to figure out how do we format this to fit her. All you have to do is establish your plot and make Reba look charming.
So let's move a little bit more forward on this rather than just focusing on the second scene. So we get a proposal. We find out that Van has been kicked out of the house, which is very convenient. So we have all of our main characters having a reason to be in the Hart home. We go to our dentist's office and we meet the reason why Reba is now a single mom who works so hard. We meet Melissa Peterman, who plays Barbara Jean, or the worst nickname for Barbara Jean ever, BJ.
You want to talk about cheeky jokes. When Brock calls her BJ the first time, and he's like, "Oh, it's short for Barbara Jean." She's like, "I know what it stands for." Like that's a cheeky joke for one Reba McEntire to make.
There was also the joke where there was that zinger where she like looked at where Barbara Jean, for our audience's sake, if you don't watch this, is very much like tries to play the holier than thou, like leads with religion sort of mindset where like even saying hell is wrong. The joke that Reba said of, is there a special pew for adulterers? It was like, I was like, oh shit, like that's a really good joke. To which Barbara Jean replies, oh, I sit with the choir. Also fantastic. Like that was some really good writing sort of.
I think that's 90% of country songs is that exact exchange. Is there a special pew at the church for adulterers? I'm like, god damn.
Yeah, Rich's next single is
it's called Special Pew, and it's out June 15th.
And if you watch the pilot backwards, Reba's whole family gets back together. What do you
but we move forward. We are going to have this wedding. It is going to be shotgun wedding style in Reba's home. And there's just some like wild shit that goes on, right? Like the talk of, oh, we're going to be honeymooning in Galveston and we need a permission slip so that we can take a few days off from school nearly broke me. I was just sitting there being like, someone wrote that and they were like, I got gold. And I'm just sitting here being like, would I write that permission slip? Like, would I legitimately?
Can we also talk about how in modern day there would be an entire secret Facebook group about this one family just discussing the gossip, because it is absolutely fucking insane what is happening in the span of 21 minutes with this family.
This family lives a life in 21 minutes.
Everybody's pregnant. They're only in their senior year of high school. people are running off with the people like with it's like way younger employees and stuff like that. It is crazy.
I want to take Jake, the youngest, and be like, Jake, find a mentor. Find a teacher you really care about. Join a club. Just
don't bite anyone.
You're gonna be okay, Jake. You're
Cut
gonna
your
be
hair.
okay.
Yeah, I also want to talk about Brett's parents just willingly sending off their... I 100% think that, like, we get Jake and he's like, oh, can I have a friend over on Saturday? And then Brett is there. Brett can't eat olives. He's definitely allergic to olives. Like, we can talk about that another time. But Brett's parents were 100% like, you need to find out every fucking thing you can about the Hart family. So we're going to send you over there. You're going to say it's a play date. You're going to eat a bunch of olives, so you have to be there even longer because you're going to be sick.
Oh,
like,
off stage, Brett's parents are talking the most shit you've ever heard in your life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also, I will say my favorite written character in this entire thing is Kyra, the middle daughter, because she's the only one that is like very much the eyes of the audience. Yeah, she's basically written as like the eyes of the writers and the audience in this, and just like, this is fucking crazy, I'm out, like kind of view of it. And
very middle child.
Definitely written super well. I also just absolutely love the runner of Reba telling each child that they're her favorite for like just saying things that are
that's
like
a
appeasing
really
to
fun
her.
reoccurring one to have.
So good.
Keep hitting.
So let's talk about the end of this pilot, though, because this wedding, there's no way it was ever going to go smoothly, right? This is a sitcom. We have to have something.
No, they're
go
17
wrong.
and it's a living room.
And we get this big monologue from Reba about, and I want to make sure I nail this, not being a loser. Because her definition of being a loser and the colloquial definition of being a loser are very different, but somehow I sort of left this being like...
No, it makes sense. Just hear her out. Just hear Reba out. It makes sense.
There's a good message in here. We just need to rewrap it a little bit, like remarket it a little bit. I mean, what do y'all think about Reba being... she is the star of the show, right? The show is literally called Reba. Mm-hmm. What do we think of having her also be... It seems like the moral center of this episode and probably every episode going forward.
Yeah, the Texas, it's very much like, I want to chalk it up to being like sitcom logic of like, oh, your 17-year-old daughter's pregnant, you have to have a wedding in your own living room. But also like, I personally don't know how this, like, if this does relate to like the evangelical Christian sect of Texas or the South in general, of like, I guess this is kind of like the logical thought process if you're living in that world. And I don't know, it just like, I really like her ability to control, or like to like keep love within the family, but also like understand that they're misbehaving. She's also had like a crazy past, I guess, but also, you know, she's just single mom who works too hard. You know what I mean? Max, I really had to land that plane.
Max, I guess from your perspective, what are you thinking as we like sort of conclude this pilot with Reba's message about like not dwelling on the past and moving forward?
I think it's real sitcom archetype to have that morality speech at the end to put the nice little bow. This, you know, from the jump, this is going to be a show about learning and family and positive messages, and they're going to go through tough times, but we always find a silver lining. But I think you also need that because so much of Reba's humor prior to this has been, Mama's got a dark side. Why are we the only house in Texas without a gun? You know, mm-hmm. We're gonna go to the Walmart. We hate the mistress, all that stuff. So we need to see the flip side of she's also a really good mom. Not that there was ever doubt of it, but like we need to see her be the voice. We need to see her represent the bigger picture here. I just feel like we've seen these wrap it up, neat little bow speeches in so many shows, and you know it's coming. It's one of those things that just feels dated in this pilot because we don't see that anymore. It feels like something of 20 to 25 years ago, and even 2001 it feels kind of dated to have the heartstrings speech to wrap up your plot.
Definitely. And it's probably why the formula of the sitcom is kind of going away for, for all intents and purposes since Big Bang Theory went off the air. And that's not a show really that has like the the hugging learning moment at the end. But yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like of a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's gone now.
There's definitely a nostalgia watching this pilot for sure. That like it's like, oh yeah, this was when if you were popular and like in your arena, you can also have a sitcom hypothetically.
Yeah.
But it's TV that feels like TV too. It has broad strokes. It has broad acting. It plays to the rafters of its audience. It has things that don't necessarily feel like the way people would talk, but it works when you watch it from a distance. And I think as we're moving into more and more naturalized comedy and comedy that's shot like prestige indie film and comedy that's maybe not necessarily comedy, but we're still going to call it comedy anyways because there are just enough jokes in it to make us laugh once in a while. Something like Reba can feel like medicine in a way because it's broad, goofy, wacky multicam, and we don't see that type of show anymore.
So that is really the end of our pilot. We got a little montage of wedding photos being taken while Walk On is playing in the background, and that's where we end. But
like you knew Barbara Jean was going to get in those photos.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, Barbara Jean's going to be there.
She was going to sit in the cake, Barbara Jean.
Let's talk about things we loved. Were there any things that you loved about this pilot that maybe we didn't give some discussion or you think needs some extra shine?
I like a wedding being your catalyst event for a pilot. This is the second. Look, I'm not saying the circumstances are the best, but this is the second sitcom that we've done following Golden Girls, where the big arcing event is a wedding. It's a comedy rule that literally dates back to the beginning of theater, where comedies end in weddings and feasts, tragedies end in funerals, and there's a reason why that rule of thumb has stuck around for 1,000 years, because it's just a joyous, fun celebration. It's an excuse to get all your characters under one roof. And while, teen pregnancy, a touchy subject, Reba handles it the best it can, and I like that it ends in such a joyous note.
Rich, what about yourself?
We've covered basically everything that I liked about the show, but I just want to shout out the way that she says oysters, which is, I think she said ersters on the half shell.
Oh my God. You leave Reba alone.
What the fuck? What part of Houston do they say that?
Well, the rule for oysters is you want to eat them in months that end in ER, but also begin in ER.
Yeah, I mean, as far as
that's some seafood restaurant whimsy right there, Max. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, no, I mean, for things that I loved, I'm gonna give a shout out to. There were two performances that I really liked that we didn't really mention too much of. I loved Steve Howey's performance as the idiot Van, who's just a really good cornerback who is the centerpiece of his football team. Like it is such a believable character. Yes, I know he was like, I think Steve Howey was like 18 or 19 when he did this show, which is insane. But like at the same time, he killed it. And then also Christopher Rich just nailed being the divorcee dad who still obviously cares, still has fundamental values behind, how he does things, but also is, a bit of a hypocrite because he cheated on his wife.
I think they did a really good job of making him kind of like scummy.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to like let that person go for comedic effect, and they really like leaned in on like, oh yeah, he's kind of a bad guy and he's like kind of tearing this family apart, but he's still going to be around.
So let's talk about wait a minute moments. Were there any things in this pilot that caused you pause?
I've got two quick ones. The first one is I want to know what Dairy Council executive was an executive producer on this show, because Reba feeds her kids a lunch of grilled cheese sandwiches and milk, a lunch that would literally kill me if I tried to have it. My second one is, this is a more obscure wait a minute moment, but Cheyenne is played by an actress named Joanna Garcia, who I found out in real life has been married 14 years to baseball player Nick Swisher,
Yes.
a World Series champion, the 2009
Yes.
Yankees. And I was trying to do research on how this show got made and doing our like rundown of topics for today. And I went down a real rabbit hole of remembering some guys on the 2009 World Series New York Yankees. Joppa Chamberlain.
Jorge Posada. And what I would also, I'll add to that.
I'll add Melky Cabrera.
I don't think they did enough of a job of showing that this family is so violent. Like they're doing a lot of saying but not they're doing a lot of telling but not showing with this. And I think it's, there's obviously that like little brawl at the end or whatever, but they're like, the way that they start this sitcom was that these people are coming out swinging, like literally throwing punches at people, at what is it, bailiffs and judges, I think they said.
Mm-hmm.
Look, these are all child actors. They are frail. They do not read to me as like, oh, I'm biting people on the ankles, I am like swinging at adults, that kind of thing. This is not like, they don't make it look like a family I would believe where this is happening, which I think they could have changed up a little bit.
Yeah, and for myself, like Max, I sort of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole as well that I'd like to talk about, and that's with Melissa Peterman, because first of all, shout out to Melissa Peterman, Minneapolis's own. Like for Melissa Peterman, for one of her first projects to be Fargo, then she did How High, and then she was just on Reba, as well as Just Shoot Me for a pretty decent amount of time. Like, hell yeah, what a fucking career just to start things off out of Minnesota State University. So shout out to you, Melissa Peterman. You're not a wait a minute moment, but you definitely deserve a little bit more shine on this podcast. Also
shout out to Mark Teixeira.
Paul O'Neill. Let's talk a little bit about our in-flight question. You can submit your in-flight questions to our Instagram. You can also leave us a call. We'll share that number at the end of the podcast. But our in-flight question was very simple. Van and Cheyenne, which I have never said those two names together, but yep, sure. Van and Cheyenne.
They sound like pickup truck names.
Yeah, they definitely do. Well, one is literally Van. So, I mean... Van and Cheyenne famously ask Reba if they can get a permission slip to be able to go on their honeymoon. What would you use your one-time permission slip to go and do any activity of your choice in high school?
I think I got mine, but I don't know what time of year it is.
No, it doesn't matter.
Whatever time of year. It's school. Right. When school is in session, what are you using your one-time permission slip for?
I want to go to like a Bonnaroo type like camping festival where everything goes until like 3 in the morning. Like I'm using it for like, I'm gonna be gone. I'm gonna be in the woods, no reception, smoking weed and playing hacky sack.
Hell yeah, Rich! You sound like a fucking dope teenager.
And watching The Killers.
Oh my god, Max! What about yourself?
I'm absolutely going to a baseball game, but I'm there all freaking day. I'm there
Doubleheader.
I'm there for warm-ups. I'm there for batting practice. I get in so well with the team that I'm on the field taking batting practice. I become a ball boy, and then I never go back to school because ball boy is like the apprentice for becoming a Major League Baseball player. That's the
right.
rules. It's like an internship kind of thing. And that's my entire life from here on out, from one day that I got a permission slip to skip
Famous
school.
past ball boys include Pete Rose, Shohei Ohtani.
Oh my god. For myself, very simply, like thinking about growing up in Florida, there were a lot of instances where it's a beautiful day and you just want to go to the beach and you want to go surfing. Because when it's a good surfing day in Florida, there's like maybe one every year. So like,
I forgot you're from surfing Florida, not fanboat Florida.
And he wanted to go to
I want to go
Florida
to the swamp. I want to go to the swamp and get me a gator. Go Gators. No. No, I would just say go to the beach. Like, I think that would be such a nice day. Go to the beach with a couple of classmates and, go to La Spada Subs in Fort Lauderdale, get a sub, and enjoy some time
Friends of the pod.
in Fort Lauderdale. Las Spadas,
mail us a sandwich.
I will say,
Liz.
Las Spadas, I'm going to make this a TikTok and just send it to you. Las Spadas, sponsor the pod. I went to Las Spadas every week in high school for an Italian sub, and it's one of the best fucking subs in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We'll bleep the curse word out, but please go to Las Spadas Subs in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or in Boca Raton, their other location. Well, that was
sent you.
Use the code Pilot's License.
Bread and lettuce.
Use the code Pilot's License to get 5% off your sub. Now, as far as
coupon
the history,
not valid in stores, online, on delivery apps, anywhere.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the history of this show. This show had 6 seasons and 127 episodes.
That's a lot.
And was one of those shows that transitioned from the WB into the CW era. So although we got Walk On in this show, there was not a ton of Reba music, surprisingly, throughout the entirety of the show. There were only actually 3 instances of Reba performing or songs being used by Reba in the background. We heard Walk On, but there were then 2 unreleased Reba songs that they debuted on the show. And they also had Reba sing 9 to 5, which is one of my favorite karaoke songs as well. Nice. So supposedly, when it came to the final season of this show, it was a very contentious cancellation amongst the fans. There were rumors that it was getting canceled. Rumors so large, in fact, that there was a fan campaign to get the chief of programming for CW fired by fans of Reba, sending in letters to CW saying, fire this woman, she does not care about us, which is insane.
Sending in packets of flour because Reba makes that bread for the network.
There were also hopes for a Van and Cheyenne spin-off of this series, either on CW or on Lifetime or the Hallmark Channel.
It's good to know Van and Cheyenne make it.
But the show got canceled. The president of CW was even quoted in an interview saying he regrets how it was handled, and he wished that they had tried to sell the rights to the show to CBS or ABC or a network that could more properly support the sitcom structure, because they just were not in that era and they didn't really fit with that type of television.
The second Bush term was coming to an end. We just didn't think this was going to translate.
They also were dealing with the show ending at the kind of the death knell of the sitcom. I will say it's if they tried to keep it going till 2010 or something like that, you're gonna have to start competing with streaming soon.
And it's also interesting because sometimes when we talk about large sitcoms and their viewership, it's because they're on network television, right? Mm-hmm. Reba being on cable, it really limited the viewership that was available to them. We're talking about their best season as far as average viewership was season 2 with 4.5 million viewers per episode. And this is in 2002. That is a low number for a sitcom. Their final episode ever was one of their best viewed episodes with 4.4 million viewers for that episode. Yes, the show was syndicated. It was all over TV based off of the family-friendly nature of it. We're talking Lifetime, Ion, Peachtree, CW+, the Hallmark Channel, ABC Family, CMT, UPTV, TV Land, and you can now find it on Hulu and Netflix. It was also broadcast in 30 countries, and here's a fun little question for you two. What do we think this show was titled in the Czech Republic?
Oh, what? It's not Reba? It's not her own name?
What do you think it was titled?
It's Reba, but with an I.
Max?
Reba with an accent and an umlaut.
Diary of a Seasoned Mother was the title of this show in Czech Republic, which is
it's a proper noun.
Which is insane.
They view the show as a tragedy there. They're like, oh, this woman, her husband has left, her daughter is pregnant. What a tragedy.
They change all of the music in the background. It's just a sad trombone the entire show instead of
no
Reba.
laugh track.
There's none.
Cornerback is a worthy people's position. It is playing defense is it keeps the limelight off of you.
Defense is the strength of a country. So let's talk a little bit about hard media. Rich, would you believe me if I said there are 34 different DVDs for this show?
I certainly would.
Because they have not only 3 disc DVDs for each of the seasons, including, oh God, I don't even want to know about VHS, but there's a complete set that is 18 DVDs. That you can purchase if you would like.
If the DVD player didn't already exist, they would have invented it for Reba.
So let's talk a little bit about awards. There were 15 nominations for this show, including 3 wins. That includes a People's Choice Award, not a surfboard, sadly, as well as 2 Young Artists Award. This show was nominated for a couple of Emmys that it did not win, and it also was nominated for a Teen Choice Award, which Reba does not have a surfboard, and now all I can think of is, what does Reba McEntire look like surfing on a surfboard? But that is the history of this show, and Rich, it is now time for your Game of the Week.
I bet she still looks like a single mom who works too hard.
She's working hard on that surfboard.
Hanging 5.
All right, so I believe this is the first time on this show that I will have you guys actively compete against each other and not take over. And this is more of a timing question or 3 timing questions, where you have to guess who I am referring to in each of these 3 questions. So I'm going to give you clues. You can start shouting out your answers at any time, but the first person who gets it gets the point. All right, so. She has 2 children from a past marriage. Her film career took off in the early 90s. She has starred with the likes of Sylvester Stallone, Harry Connick Jr., Keanu Reeves, and Michael Caine.
A
former
Meg Ryan?
What was it?
Meg Ryan?
What'd you say, Max?
Sandra Bullock?
Sandra Bullock, you got
it. Oh, there you go.
Oh, you got it pretty early. I wrote like 4 more clues. All right. A decorated and knighted English actor. 3 Oscars and 4 BAFTAs to his name. His father-in-law is a massively famous playwright.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Nice. Well done. Okay. That was I think I had 3 more clues after that. All right.
He has a right foot and a left foot.
But they only wrote a movie about one.
Yeah, only one of them is famous.
Where's the sequel?
All right. A band from Chicago, Illinois, formed in 1977. They have 5 top 10 singles in the 80s with Burning Heart, The Search Is Over, High on You, Is This Love, and there's one more. They're used in a movie featuring another Chicago legend. The song was their main song was written because Sylvester Stallone wanted a song that sounded a lot like Another One Bites the Dust.
Survivor.
So you guys guessed a single mom, a guy who works 2 jobs, and a survivor.
Oh my God, you son of a bitch. Rich just hates us at this point. This is him making games out of spite. Well, Rich, thank you for that spiteful game of the week. As our flight comes to a land, I have 2 questions for you. And one is, based off of the pilot, would you continue watching Reba? Maybe giving it a second episode. And 2, I guess my question isn't so much, do we need more Reba? She seems to be doing great. She just did the Super Bowl. She is, I believe, in Vegas right now.
She did the Super Bowl?
Yeah, she did the Super Bowl. She did the national anthem for the Super Bowl.
Oh, right. Okay. I was like, did we watch the same halftime show?
Reba is doing fantastic. Okay. But I'm more so am looking for, Rich, you asked that awesome question at the beginning of the podcast of what modern day performer would you want to see a sitcom from potentially? Do you think there's still a place for that in our world, or there's appetite for that? And Max, I'm
with
going to
Reba specifically?
Not with Reba specifically, but with the idea of, do you think TV or streaming needs a star that's centered around a actor or a performer just being an actor?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm giving this a second episode. This is very much like come home from school and throw on whatever syndicated TV show is on, kind of moment. So I'm giving this another shot just with the amount of jokes that I really like from the pilot. If it comes to making another show with a musician, the examples are 100% out there. Like we have Atlanta, we have the Vince Staples show. Brockhampton just feels like due for a buddy comedy or like an ensemble comedy or something. Lil Dicky has that show. I definitely think that we are geared up more towards like having that crossover with comedy and music. So yeah, I think that we're going to end up seeing a lot more of that.
Max, what about yourself?
I would probably also give Reba another episode. I think that the broad strokes, the broad swigs, they are charming and endearing in their own way, and I would like to see just how they continue to develop these relationships over time. It's worth noting that Reba actually had a pilot order this year from NBC. A lot of the original production team from this show has a pilot that's apparently been picked up by NBC, so we'll see come this fall if Reba is back on our TVs in a sitcom format. And yeah, Rich, to your point, the whole multi-hyphenate thing is becoming so ubiquitous these days that I think that...
You could say it, pervasive.
Yeah, there are big entertainers with big personalities and big followings on social who are absolutely due for sitcom-type environments, whether it's as broad and wacky as Reba or, a little more introspective and modern, remains to be seen. But I think people will go for these types of things. We feel comfortable in personalities we know and like.
Yeah, and for myself, surprise, boys, I watched the second episode of this pilot of this show last weekend when I watched the first episode of this without us prompting it. Because I was just like, what's on Reba? So, yeah, I can honestly say, yeah, I gave this a second episode for sure. As far as...
It's terrible.
It's actually low-key
really
fire.
Really downhill from the
low-key, great episode. I got angry at the villain of the episode. It was awesome. But as far as that, is there that space? I would say we've come to a place where when Reba was on, we didn't really have the availability of social media to be able to be 100% seeing a star that we are a big fan of or we're a fan of their brand all of the time, right? And then we got to this point a few years ago where it's like, there's too much. We're getting too much of those people. I don't need them that much. And now we have come back to, I want even more of it. I want as much. I want to know what they eat, sleep, what they wear, where they go on vacation, all of that stuff. So why not? Like, I see sort of the mania that surrounds some of these pop stars that exist today, and I'm like, yeah, no shit. If I'm a studio executive, I'm saying, can we get this person to agree to be on a TV show so that we can actually get viewers live of our show, especially if we can get access to their music catalog while we're doing it. So I think it's not a if, it is a when. When will we be seeing some of those bigger billboard names appear on our TVs more frequently?
Yeah, is it stunt casting? Absolutely, but it's the only thing keeping the lights on Broadway these days.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as that goes, yeah, 100%, and that's 3 yeses.
I want to see Fetty Wap in Chicago. Make it happen.
If Fetty Wap does Mr. Cellophane, I'm gonna lose my damn mind. Well, that is our flight, gentlemen, and to our frequent flyers, that is our flight as well. But if you are looking for a little bit more of us, Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find me eating ersters in Galveston, Texas, and you can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find original sketch comedy from Max and myself at Dadwagon Comedy on both Instagram and TikTok.
Max, where can folks find you?
You can catch me running the damn ball so Van can't do shit about it. And you can find me on all...
That's Galveston, baby.
And you can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Sing.
And you can find me sitting with the church's choir. I don't know how I got there, but I guess I'll sing. You can also find me on social media at Run Jeff Run. You can find the TV Pilot's License anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find us and watch us on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave comments, and leave a review for the podcast. It definitely helps us out. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can shoot us an email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some sneak previews of some of the stuff that we got coming out soon. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then,
Ersters.
I'm a survivor.